War, Armageddon, political incompetence. Humanity has dealt with its fair share of issues. We've been fortunate enough that we've even managed to solve some over the years. However, there is one issue that may never be solved. One issue that is synonymous with our species and representative of our global human struggle. How can I keep my kids quiet for 10 minutes while I'm on the phone? Back in the day, a good case of bubonic plague was usually enough to keep your kids quiet. However, once we learned how to wash our hands, kids suddenly had all this free time, and now parents had to come up with new ways to shut their kids up. Unfortunately, you won't find straitjackets and duct tape mentioned very often in the Encyclopedia of Good Parenting. So, what were we to do? Enter the television. Man, did this thing make it easy. Now, all you had to do was stick your kid in front of this magic light box and it would keep them quiet for minutes at a time. And you can bet that early TV manufacturers knew this. Just check out all these old ads. Notice the children. Calm, quiet, perfect. The only problem was that children's shows were only on a couple of times a day, and no kid wanted to watch medical dramas, so TV wasn't the perfect distraction device yet. But this is where economics comes into play. You have here a demand for a service. And this is about where TV started getting more than 4 channels. As with most entrepreneurs, it didn't take a genius to connect the dots. All of a sudden, you have the birth of the Children's Network. You really have to applaud these things, you know? All day, every day, parents could stick their children in front of the TV where they'd be bombarded by loud flashing lights and mindless slapstick, while mom could finally enjoy her gossip time, knowing that her goddamn children will keep their stupid mouths shut for a change. Now, most of this stuff was going on in the USA, right? I mean, up here in Canada, we at least had hockey, so when the kids were being annoying, you just threw them out the front door with their skates, and usually they could figure the rest out. But there was TV up here, too. Now, let's talk a little bit about Canadian entertainment. When it comes to our vices, Canadians and Americans have a lot of similarities. So a lot of American entertainment made its way across the border into Canadian homes too. Cut to Parliament Hill in 1968. Politicians were freaking out because Canadian TVs and radios weren't playing any Canadian content. Now say what you will about Canadian politics. I know I do. But you have to admit that they at least value Canadian culture more than American. So they formed the CRTC, a commission with the central goal of promoting Canadian content in entertainment. And they actually did a pretty good job. If it wasn't for these guys, it's unlikely that we'd see the success of Canadian musical artists like the tragically hip Trooper and Blue Rodeo today. And if you listen to any of that, you'd agree that'd be quite a loss. It's similar for TV, where the law states that at least half of primetime programming has to be Canadian. Without this, we'd have never gotten such Canadian classic TV shows as Trailer Park Boys or The Littlest Hobo. So, we now have a math equation. CRTC regulations plus children's networks equals what? YTV. On September 1st, 1988 at 7 p.m., YTV launched in Canada. I guess it was a pretty big event at the time because they had a whole launch ceremony and everything with some pretty big names involved. YTV boasted Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network shows, but as per regulations, half of all the content was Canadian. YTV is where I went for SpongeBob and the Fairly Odd Parents, so it's already nostalgic in that sense, but there's still a certain charm in revisiting the old Canadian shows, so that's what we'll be looking at today. Now, I'm the last of the millennials, so my YTV was from the 2000s. As I've said before, the thing with Canadian content is that it can be so good, or it can be so bad. And it's been a long time since I've seen any of these old shows, so it's time to see if those CRTC laws did our young, impressionable minds any good by providing us with quality content. Of course, there's a lot of variation within children's content, mostly differentiated by age or gender. The first show I want to take a look at is The Big Comfy Couch, which is targeted at younger audiences. It was played on Treehouse TV, which was a subsection of YTV that tended to play the young children's programming in the mornings and early afternoons. The Big Comfy Couch is an older show, originally made in 1992 and running until 2006.
Okay, well, here I am. It's Friday night. It's 5:04 on a Friday night, and here I am watching The Big Comfy Couch. I really hope nobody walks in on me over the next 25 minutes. Oh, I don't know. This isn't the first one, I don't think. It was, this one just happens to have, 2 million, almost 2.2 million views. That's why I picked this one.
In this box?
So, I think what they're doing here is they have a normal-sized woman here. Like, she's probably supposed to appeal to smaller children. Like, I think that this is an actual woman. She just happens to be on a ginormous frickin' couch they made. So, like, they're not wrong. At least the Big Comfy Couch is right. Alright, this is what they do. At the beginning of every episode, she stretches, and like if you wanted to stretch along, you could, but I'm not a very flexible person, so I wouldn't really. Yeah, and she did it on the clock. I remember this now. This was so frigged up. I hope this girl got, like, paid more than minimum wage for this, because this has to be humiliating. Okay, so the thing I remember most about this show is the puppet in the doll, right? They called her Molly, and the idea was, my family, we had a puppet, or not a puppet, it was an actual doll. It was officially licensed from the show because it looked just like her, and it was from the dump, so it was ferociously beat up and dirty. And this was also around the time when my little brother was absolutely horrified of dolls. So the idea was, whenever sister and I wanted to ruin my little brother's day, we'd pull out Molly and scare the living daylights out of him, and we couldn't watch this show, I don't think, because it had Molly in it and he was absolutely petrified. I feel bad for whoever's like inside the couch right now, whose job is to play with the doll. Oh yes, and then the side characters were the mice puppets. Just gonna go ahead and skip past this part. Right, we got Granny. Yeah, see, the idea is, if the characters aren't... Well, even those mice, they all have big noses. That's the aesthetic of the show. Oh god, she's dead. So as you can tell, this episode, it's about food, you know, don't eat healthy, you know, kids. Gordon Ramsay.
You're shit. You are so shit you don't realize what you're doing.
Who made this big mess?
This is how they end every... This is how they end every episode.
I better clean it up. It's only fair. So, get ready for the 10-second
The 10-second tidy.
Ready, set, go!
So they just have this poor actress put away all their frickin' props, and they just speed it up. I remember being scared of parts of this show. I think this was one of them. The end sequence was frightening. Like, does this poor girl not have a bed? Does she have to sleep on the couch? Ramona Gilmore, I hope you're doing okay. Because that hits your pride hard if you have to do that. But that's the big comfy couch. I don't think I need to watch any more of that ever again. I mean, it's for super young kids. Like, really, really small. Oh, it hurts me. It hurts my soul.
The next show is called Jacob Tutu, a cartoon made from 2003 until 2006. I remember the premises of this one, which is that the main character sometimes has to say the same thing twice in a row. It sounds kind of annoying, right? How do they make a show about this?
So, Jacob Tutu, if I recall, is based off a picture book of some kind, so I believe they're doing their best to emulate that style. I think this one's the debut Jacob Tutu one, so let's get an idea for the premise.
I'm Jacob Tutu, and this is my house. I mean, my family's house. Our new house in Montreal.
Oh, Montreal! Why isn't he speaking French?
I scared you good that time.
He looks like a crackhead. I have to throw it out there. He's got those pale eyes and like messed up hair.
They call me Jacob Tutu because I'm the smallest, and I've always had to say things twice to be heard. Excuse me. Excuse me.
I mean, that's fair. But like later on he has to... Like, you'll see. It gets annoying. This is typical... Oh god, look where I paused it there. Typical for the cartoon intros is they have some sort of early 2000s, like, punk band or something soundtrack, so... Oh, I don't like how big her face is compared to her... Her head is like this, and her hands are like this. Oh! I remember this episode. Okay, he like... They tell him this wrestler is in his... the attic where he's sleeping. And like, he gets scared, and then he goes see a wrestling match.
Not in a dressing room. Well, he's got to be here somewhere.
He goes to a wrestling match, and he meets the wrestler, and like, they become friends.
Where can I buy... I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's the
I thought you
tutu
were the
thing.
hooded thing.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Okay, Mr. Wise Guy.
So where is he? Where's Jacob?
Looks like it's time for my fang.
I can't tell if Dad's supposed to be Jewish or not. I'm sorry, but...
Look fear right in the face. Right in the face. Gary? I'm not afraid of you.
Jeez. This music gives me Porcupine Tree vibes. What the hell?
Flying leg drop O'Toole and Shanghai headlock Shapiro here. Today
Oh, okay, that's Jacob Tutu. It's such... Your premises is so simple. Like, you can make cartoons out of so many things, but it's like, okay, we got a kid, he's got a big family, he lives in Montreal, he says things twice. I mean, in the first episode, they have to introduce this wrestler just to keep things interesting. Take what you will away from that, but I never recall Jacob Tutu as being the best one.
Prank Patrol. This is a classic, running from 2005 until 2010. The best way I can describe this show is wholesome. You know all those modern prank channels that you see on YouTube, where the prank is basically being blatantly racist or cruel, and then acting like you're the victim when you get knocked out, and the whole thing is faked anyways? This isn't like that. Yeah, the show is probably mostly fake, but the pranks seem like they'd be genuinely good if they were real. Honestly, this show reminds me a little bit of Mythbusters in places, because a lot of the time they'd visit some really cool prop and special effect warehouses when they are putting together their pranks. It was a good, fun show, and nobody ever seemed to be having a bad time on it. Oh, and it also has one of the best theme songs of all time. I still remember it to this day.
Yeah, they come on the road and they strike nobody knows. They seem to have a point to prove. They'll make a plan and see it through. They'll sign you up to join the crew. Andy and the ninjas too. Come on to hear them join the prank patrol. Here we go. Okay, so this is one. All these other ones I'm doing today, I've already, I haven't seen in 10 years. This is the first one. I've watched a couple episodes in the last month. I've watched 2. This one I thought would be funny because the guy in the thumbnail with the mohawk reminds me of a friend my brother would have. But these Prank Patrol is sublime. Because it's an actual prank. And who knows if they're in on it or not. Sometimes it seems like they have to be in order for it to make any sense. But like this one, like it's a basic premises. Like your daughter comes home with the wrong boyfriend. That's easy to fake. So this one, honestly, it could be real. But I saw this other one where like a kid convinces his friends he has like an infinity gauntlet or something, and like he's blowing stuff up. That one I don't believe. The kids had to be in it. But I mean, even so, it's fun to watch them like set up things and everything. So Prank Patrol's a good one. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I was just skipping through there, and where I paused it in the background, I saw a flag with a swastika on it, and the swastika was crossed out. I just found a swastika in a YTV show. Okay, so now they have to give the fake boyfriend, they gotta give him a raunchy looking car, so they get a frickin' hearse. Who drives around? Even if you're a punk, like even if you have a blue mohawk, who drives around in a hearse? They showed it earlier. It's got flames on it. The host, he's named Andy. He's a creep. So the side thing with this show is they have ninjas, and what the ninjas do is they do the side gags. Like you'd see this sort of thing on Just for Laughs gags. But I think these ones I think are always real. They seem pretty genuine. Okay, maybe not this one. Bad example. But there are a couple, like they put like a table in a mall and they hide underneath, and there's a box that says, or a book that says "Open Book to Read," and you can do that. And you stick your hand out at you when you open it up. This one's stupid. Okay, so we're here at the actual prank, right? She's talking to her dad, trying to sell him on it. And see how it goes.
16. You're gonna be 13.
Yeah.
Perfect. Dad's taking the bait.
This freaking dude's rolling up in a hearse with a skull and crossbones and flames on it.
For all the fun times we had, please, sir, let me call you Dad. What do you think?
Whoa. Mr. Blasey? Yeah? I have to inform you, you've just been taken in by the prank patrol.
Prank Patrol. Sucker!
See, yeah, at the end, like, they always go up to the victim and like, you just got prank patrolled, and like, they're like, what? I think this one's a pretty plausible one, but they have the Bigfoot one too, and that one's stupid. But there's prank patrol. It's good, you know. I recommend this one.
Grossology. I hated this one. Believe it or not, it actually ran for a long time, from 2006 to 2017. I thought it would be appropriate to include a show that I didn't like, just to show that there was some pretty bad ones on YTV, and this is a bad one. Again, the problem is in the premises. It's basically Kim Possible, except worse animation, and the gimmick is that all the villains are really gross and disgusting. The thing I remember most strongly about this show is one of its villains, who is named Fartor. This character literally has the worst design and backstory I've ever seen.
This is Grossology.
Just relax and let it hit you. Ew! Totally gross.
Relax, it's perfectly natural.
Besides, girls fart just as much as boys do.
Not this girl. Ooh. Ooh.
Whoa.
Either
Are you charmed yet? This is the show. It's called Fartzilla, okay? They recycle these animations all the time when they're putting on their secret agent suits or whatever they call it, turning into grossologists, you know. I never liked this show, even as a kid. When like bathroom humor was funny, I didn't like it. This is the villain I was talking about.
Fartor. And that is an excellent question, my dear.
Do you see this crap?
Tell you a tale of adolescent.
The concept of the character is that he can only breathe fart gas. You can't make this stuff up, man. Here's his backstory.
My lungs adapted to the poisonous emissions of my brother's bowels. Like a fish out of water, clean air is poison to me. I can only survive in an ocean of putrid gas.
Wow.
So, who thought of this crap?
Finally,
Literally crap.
revenge on
Ugh. Ah, no, I don't like it.
powered completely.
Even as a freaking kid.
And it will be an instrument.
Okay, so he has a giant robot powered by farts. I mean, sure, I'll take it. It looks like a flea. Giant fart robot. He's going to get revenge on his brother for farting on him all the time.
Why do you ask?
Missions of the
Oh, he's gonna fart on his brother. This is what passes for plot in this show. He's gonna revenge fart on his brother.
Ooh, more gas.
Nice job.
I remember this scene so clearly.
I would enjoy camping.
It is so stupid.
Oh no, Gary. No. Sorry, Gary. It's go time.
But could Leonardo take down a giant farting robot?
I hate this show. I can't. Somebody wrote that. Somebody wrote that. Could Leonardo take down a giant farting robot? How much crystal meth do you have to smoke?
Mystery Hunters was another live-action show that ran from 2002 until 2009. I think I used to consider it as my favorite show for a little bit. That's because I was really into supernatural and scary stuff as a kid. I don't know why. I was super into ghosts especially. My sister and I used to always watch a Discovery show called The Haunting, which we thought was terrifying, I'm very sad to say.
One morning, as Jan is cleaning, she notices that everything in Cody's closet is wet.
Oh. Ew. Cody, are you peeing in the closet?
On that show, they even covered a haunted house that was in our city, and this specific one was in a park where you could actually visit individual buildings, so we went to go see it. It was kind of a pathetic show on our part, because we went there with like baby monitors and stuff, and we were looking around for electromagnetic interference and stuff. Real top-of-the-line ghost hunting equipment from us as kids. And when we were there, we looked under a crack in a locked door and we noticed a light, which was probably from a window. And then we ran out of the house terrified and refused to come back in. Anyways, Mystery Hunters, I think, is actually a fairly good show on supernatural topics because they actually try to find plausible explanations for all the supernatural stuff they talk about. Their tagline was, "Things aren't always as they seem." And I think that's actually a really good message for kids because it teaches them, among other things, to not be afraid of a light you see under a crack in a door.
So I'm watching all these off YouTube. The good thing about Canadian television is nobody cares about copyright up here apparently, so anything you can get just on YouTube. Except this one's not on YTV. Somebody recorded it off of Discovery Kids, so there you go. So this is Mystery Hunters. As you can see, they deal in the spooky, in the spectacular, and it's good. I like it. Today they're covering Alcatraz and Cemetery Poltergeist. Should be a good time. Oh, this title sequence takes me back, dude!
One story describes a prisoner screaming that a demon with glowing eyes was in his cell. The next morning, he was found dead.
That story actually, I remember hearing that story off this show. That actually scared me.
In a minute,
Cause I mean, like, how freaking spooky is that, man? You're seeing glowing eyes in the dark, and then you wake up, like you're in a prison cell and you wake up strangled to death? Like, that's freaking metal, dude! See, but this is the strength of the show. It's like, it's going over this really spooky stuff, like, how the hell are these people getting hurt so bad? It's like, ooh, I can't take it. And then they delve into it, and usually they find pretty good explanations, like, oh, all 5 fingers in your hand broke that night because you wedged them in between vending machines and like it fell over or something like that. And it's good stuff for kids because kids are like, oh, so spooky, like I always was. But then this show comes along, it's like, hey, stop being so dumb. This is the way things actually go. Right, V-Files. This was the best part of the show because you have Doubting Dave. He was always my favorite. This sequence, kids would send in spooky stories of their own, and then Dave would look over it. He's like, oh wow, oh okay. Your dog died, and it's the dumber part because, you know. But let's have a look.
Can ghosts give people rashes? Well, Howard,
What type of a question is that?
Getting weird.
Oh man, I got so spooked out from that. What do you think it was?
He got spooked out, dude.
I'm just going to give a warning out here. The facts are there's been well over 400 documented attacks by this poltergeist, of which at least 140 people have been knocked unconscious during this tour. This is at your own risk.
Here we go.
Imagine going on a ghost tour with a bunch of people and then people are just passing out all around you. Oh no! Mystery Lab. Okay, we got Doubting Dave again.
We're in some tunnels under a 100-year-old hospital. We told 10 kids that they were going to be part of an experiment to see if we could meet the infamous ghost that inhabits this hospital wing.
If I was a kid and I got to go on that, I'd be so freaking
This
stoked.
corridor was filled.
I got like a chill in my back. Oh yeah.
Oh crap, was she wearing a cow's shirt?
Probably right over here.
Dude, cows!
Okay, I want to.
That's a Canadian ice cream band. It's kind of a Canadian ice cream parlor. You can find them usually at pretty popular places. It started in Prince Edward Island, and you can find it at the national parks now. And they make these awesome parody shirts. I think she was wearing a cow shirt. That's wicked. Because that's like Canadian as hell. That's a cow shirt. Yeah. Oh, that puts you in Canada right away.
Do you think it's still possible that part of the hospital is haunted?
Definitely.
How many do?
Yes.
See, this was totally me as a kid. He proves that it's not haunted, but then everybody's like, it's still haunted.
Remember, things aren't always what they seem.
And that's the tagline. Alright. One more show.
The final show I want to look at is called Being Ian. This one only ran for 2 years, between 2005 and 2007. It doesn't have the most promising show description. Basically, it's just about a kid, Ian, who wants to be a filmmaker. The main thing I remember about Being Ian is that it takes place in Burnaby, British Columbia, which is a suburb of Vancouver. I always thought that Burnaby was a fictional setting for the show until I actually went there. That kind of blew my little mind.
So for Being Ian, I had a lot of choices for shows, because I showed the first one. I showed the first episode of Jacob Tutu. I didn't want to do the same thing. So, because we're in Canada, I decided to pick the episode that made mention of hockey. So we're watching Hockey Night in Burnaby. So the idea with Ian is that he likes to film stuff. He's a film student. Apparently all film students are these really hyperactive nerds. But, oh my god, Don Cherry!
A game like good Canadian boys, with their heads!
Trevor Lindell.
You're retired hockey great and motivational speaker Ryan Walter. You the man! Well, with my motivation,
Ryan Walter.
You can be the master.
Oh, I guess he is real. Okay, good for them.
No.
The premises of this episode is that Ian wants to meet the Canucks.
I'm here to inspect your organ. Walter, I'm your
That one was actually good.
Your self-help strategies have made me the success.
Hold on.
If you want to sell hot dogs, you need to sell yourselves.
Oh, I missed that one too.
I'm here to inspect your organ.
Oh my god, that's 2 adult jokes in a row.
Your biggest Dutch fan.
Good job.
Your self-help strategies have...
Oh. Okay, they managed to get their hands on the good old hockey game. I won't play it, so I'll put some like stock music in the background or something. This is an enjoyable episode. Hockey themes and stuff. Welcome to Canada. Okay, this is about the ending here. Let's see what Canucks they have on the ice, eh?
Is this supposed to be the anthem?
I gotta look at the credits here. Announcer. Oh yeah, they got Ryan Walter and Trevor Linden. That's actually awesome. Okay, so the camera died, and I don't feel there's really no reason to go back. But that was Being Ian. That was the Hockey Night in Burnaby one. That was the end of the YTV shows I saved for myself. If you want to watch it, I have the YTV shows for poor people playlist that has everything I covered in this episode. Yeah, this guy is thinking the same thing. That was actually hilarious. Being Ian, it's a weird one. I mean, it's like Jacob Tutu in that it's got a premises that doesn't lend itself well to anything, but they managed to get some pretty funny stuff out of it. So this, out of the cartoons I covered today, this one I would probably recommend the most. The good old hockey game, Toronto Maple Leafs. This guy just says hi. All right.
So those were some of the YTV shows that I most strongly remember. I absolutely didn't cover all of them, but it's a good representation of the shows. We had live action and we had cartoons, some good ones and some bad ones. Honestly, even if you're not a Canadian, I'd suggest watching a couple episodes of Prank Patrol and Mystery Hunters, and maybe give Being Ian a try if you're feeling brave. You might not like them, but you'll never know until you try. I mean, YTV definitely contributed to rotting my brain, right? But you can at least agree that this stuff was miles better than kids' YouTube. Because I've seen that crap, and I'd show a kid Grossology 90 million times before I subjected them to that garbage.